Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my July wrap-up part 2, and I apologize now for maybe rushing through books more than I usually do, or for this just being a really long video because I read a lot of books in the last couple of weeks of this month. I finished 8 books, which is what I typically read in like a whole month, not let alone like the last 2 weeks. So yeah, this is gonna be an interesting video. I mean, it's partially because I went on vacation, so I read like 3 or 4 books while I was on vacation, but still, this is a lot of books. So in order to help keep this relatively short, I am going to direct you guys to the book riot video that I just put up this week, and it's about 3 of the nonfiction books that I read this month. The first one is The Feather Thief by Kirk Wallace Johnson. The second one is Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, and the third one is I'm Still Here by Austin Channing Brown. So The Feather Thief is a true crime book following the heist that happened in Britain, where this guy basically broke into a natural history museum in order to steal a bunch of birds and feathers because he was very much into fly fishing, and specifically like the tying of the flies, not the actual act of fishing. And so in the fly fishing community, there are these specific feathers that are really rare and can be sold for a lot of money, and so he decided to rob a museum in order to get those feathers because they had specimens of the birds. So it's a story about the history of like fly fishing and feather tying and why these feathers were so important, but then it goes into the actual heist itself and sort of the conclusion of all of that. I loved this book. It was less than 300 pages and I flew through it in no more than 2 days for sure. Like I might have started it on a Saturday and finished it on a Sunday sort of situation. Yeah, it was so good. If you like heist stories, if you like true crime stories, then I highly recommend this one. It's so fascinating and it's completely unlike anything else that I've ever read before, just because this story is so unique and the world of like fly tying is so unusual that yeah, it's just so gripping. I highly recommend it. Bad Blood by John Carreyrou is another sort of true crimey type of book. John Carreyrou is a reporter with the Wall Street Journal, and he is the journalist who broke the story about the biotech company Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes and how all of it was basically a giant sham. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I think I listened to this one all in one day, or pretty close to all in one day, because I could not stop listening to it. Like, this is a story where you cannot believe what went down. There were so many red flags about this company, and yet they still got a $1 billion valuation, and they could have potentially hurt a lot of people because again, they were working in biotech and doing things with like medications and blood supplies and things like that, and people could have gotten seriously sick or hurt or died if their company had moved forward the way that they were planning on moving forward. So yeah, that is for sure one of the best books I've read so far this year. I haven't read anything that addicting or shocking or anything along those lines. So if you are someone who enjoys, again, true crime, if you like sort of the gossipy side of things, like if you were the type of person who enjoys like Fire and Fury or something like that, I feel like that you would really enjoy Bad Blood. Even if you don't know anything about Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes, you don't need to. Everything is explained in the book. It just talks about how ridiculous this company was ran and how much it like just tricked people into believing that it was doing good things when it wasn't. It's basically considered like the Enron of Silicon Valley. And then I'm Still Here by Austin Channing Brown is an essay collection. The subtitle to this is Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness. And Austin Channing Brown starts off the essay collection talking about how her parents gave her purposefully a name that makes people think that she's a white man, and how that has influenced her over her life, and how it's influence the way that she views herself, views her blackness, the way that other people view her and view her blackness. And then the essays just continue on with her experiences living in predominantly white spaces and talking about race. She works a lot with like racial reconciliation, and she works with companies to try to get them to become more diverse and recognize their own inequalities and things like that. And so she talks about her experiences with that. Again, another book that I just absolutely loved, definitely going to be in my favorites of the year. I plan on buying my own copy of it and probably rereading it and marking it up because there were so many passages that I loved so much. If you follow me on Instagram and you watch my stories, you would have seen me posting about the book and posting some of the quotes from the book and things like that. So yeah, I love that book so much. But again, I'm not going to do deeper comments about these 3 books, despite the fact that I love them also so much, because I made an entire video over on Book Riot for it. So again, that will be linked up in the card so you guys can check that out. But I highly recommend all 3 of those books, no matter what you're reading style or preferences are. All right, the next book that I read was Give Me Your Hand by Megan Abbott. This is the latest release from Megan Abbott, and I got an electronic arc of this book from Edelweiss. Yeah, I like this book. I think I liked You Will Know Me a little bit more, which was her last release, which was the one about gymnastics or around gymnastics. And I think I like that one a little bit more just because I like gymnastics. But with Give Me Your Hand, you are following these two characters named Kit and Diane. Kit is this girl who doesn't really have a lot of ambitions for herself, but then this girl, Diane, moves to town while she's in high school and they end up becoming partners in chemistry class. Diane is like super motivated, super driven, and Kit ends up being inspired by that and becoming super driven herself. But then something happens and they have a falling out. And then you flash forward to sort of present day, and Kit is a grad student or something along those lines for like this major female researcher, and she's like gunning for this position on this really exclusive research project that she's working on. All of a sudden Diane comes back into her life and their past in competition sort of comes back up again. So this is a really interesting book, and I'm not doing the plot summary justice because there's so much that happens in this book, but I think part of the fun of Megan Abbott is seeing the story unfold. So like the previous one, she took on the gymnastics world sort of, and in this one she's taking on women in the STEM fields sort of, but it really is just like this deeper psychological look at these two specific women. The thing Megan Abbott is really, really good at is like atmosphere and making everything feel just really uncomfortable and eerie. Like as soon as I started the book, like I had this not sense of dread, but there's just like this uncomfortableness because you know that like things have happened and you know that these people can't be trusted and you're not really sure where exactly the story is going to go. There are parts of this story that I found to be a little bit predictable, or I basically just like felt like it was obvious where the story was headed. But there is a lot of things I really like in here in terms of just the discussions about this specific like type of female friendship slash competition. Like they're not frenemies, but they are kind of like frenemies. Yeah, I just feel like if you are someone who enjoys psychological suspense books and you haven't read Megan Abbott, then you definitely should. But Megan Abbott isn't like my absolute favorite writer or anything like that, just because I find her stories to be a little bit predictable. Like I find that by the end of the story, I'm a little bit over it. I always like her more at the beginning of the story, not as much at the end. But there are still things that happen in the second half of the book that I was surprised by, so there is that. So yeah, I think I give this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It might be closer to like 3.5. I again just enjoy Megan Abbott in general because she creates these sort of eerie books, and I don't think there's a lot of people writing quite like her. So yeah, if you haven't read Megan Abbott before, I think that this would be a good place to start, and I think that if you've enjoyed Megan Abbott's previous works, you're gonna like this one as well. All right, another book that I almost forgot to mention that I actually read before I read all of those nonfiction books and that Megan Abbott book, but that doesn't really matter, is Hope Never Dies by Andrew Schaefer. This is the Obama-Biden mystery that I have been talking about on like Twitter and Instagram, and we talked about it in the recent Red or Dead podcast where we talked about this in comparison, or not in comparison with, but along with the new James Patterson Bill Clinton book. Yeah, this book is just like campy ridiculousness. Like there's nothing really more to it. If you are a Biden fan, then you will enjoy this book just for like the overall silliness of it. For me, there was sort of like a hurdle I had to get over with this book where I was like over analyzing it almost. The Obama in this book is not very Obama-like, in my opinion. And there were parts in this book where I was just like, oh, this is so like not things that you would say. But then I basically just like scolded myself a little bit and was like, you're reading Obama Biden fan fiction, you're thinking too hard about this, you need to just turn off your brain and go along for the ride. And once you do that, this is just a fun silly story. Like yeah, there's not like some super deep writing or anything along those lines happening here. It's just like a silly fun fan fiction story. So yeah, in the beginning of the story you are following Vice President Biden. It's relatively soon after they have left office and he is feeling a little bit hurt because he sees all of the pictures of Obama on vacation with all of these different famous people. He feels like he's been left behind, and he's also trying to figure out what he wants to do with all of this time that he has now on his hands when he finds out that a train conductor that he knew passed away, and it's kind of under like suspicious circumstances. So he starts looking into it, and Obama decides to help as well. And they basically become amateur detectives looking into this case. It goes into things like the opioid epidemic, which I think was interesting, but overall, like, this is just a silly, lighthearted read. If you want something silly and lighthearted and want to pine for the days of when these two were the leaders of our country, then yeah, I recommend it. But don't go into this expecting like anything super, super deep. Also, side note, I just remembered, I was blurbed for that book over on Amazon. I will link to that just because it blew my mind. I also posted about this on like Twitter and Instagram because of course I did. But yeah, how crazy is that? It's from something I said for Book Riot, I think on the Read or Dead podcast, but I don't even remember because I talk so much that who knows where I'm saying what anymore. All right, continuing on with the mystery streak, I have The Dry by Jane Harper. This is the first book I picked up while on vacation. I was specifically saving this one for my vacation because I knew that it was going to be a book that I enjoyed, and so I knew that this would make a good plane book. And yeah, I did enjoy it. I feel like this book has been all over BookTube, so I don't need to do too much of a explanation about this book, but it takes place in Australia, and you are following this character named Aaron Falk, who is a detective. Him and his father were basically run out of town a really long time ago for circumstances that you find out about, and he returns back to his small hometown for the first time in like decades when he finds out that his childhood friend Luke has died, and he wasn't even like originally planning on returning home for the funeral, but then like his father called basically saying that he needed to return home for the funeral, and he finds out that the parents think that there may have been suspicious circumstances around his death, and so he decides to hang around town to sort of figure out what exactly is going on. This book, and specifically Jane Harper, gets a lot of comparisons to Tana French. She's definitely not as great as Tana French is, but I think that if you enjoy that sort of character-driven mysteries, you'll really like The Dry as well. It also has that element of like returning home thing that Tana French has done a handful of times in her stories as well, so it gives you like similar vibes. I think I gave this one a 4 to 5 stars on Goodreads, but I think it's closer to like a 3.5 for me. I'm really excited though to pick up Force of Nature. I've heard from so many different people that that one's even better than this one, so yeah, I will be getting to that soon, but I am officially on the Jane Harper bandwagon. So yes, very, very strong mystery. I highly recommend it, especially if you like Tana French. All right, the next book that I have is The Prey of Gods by Nikki Drayden. This is a science fiction book, and this was a very weird reading experience. First of all, this cover is completely unlike what the inside of the book is like, so completely inaccurate. So I'm not going to do a very good job of doing a plot summary because there's way too much plot that happens in this book, and that's part of my problem with the book in general. You are following like 5 different characters, and they all have like very different storylines happening. It takes place in a future South Africa. There is this virus that is going around, and like this through also this major drug that's spreading throughout the country that unlocks a part of a human consciousness that makes them think that they are these animals, and it turns out the animals are like representations for these different gods, and that is sort of unlocking this like demigoddess's powers, and she plans on like destroying humankind. And there is this young Zulu girl who can be able to stop her, and there's also this politician who has this like major secret, and there is this major pop star who also has this major secret. And yeah, there's so much happening in this plot. It was kind of a mess for me. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I've been debating since like the moment I finished it what to rate this book because it was between a 2 and 3 stars. The reason why I bumped it up to 3 is because I was completely entranced by this book. I don't know if it's because it's so convoluted that I needed to concentrate so hard, and so I stopped paying attention to the world around me. Like I read this while I was on vacation, and there was an actual point where I was sitting on the train reading the book, and I like looked up and I realized that I had passed my train stop by like a good 2 stops. So like the book had that sort of like all-encompassing feeling to it, but again, the story is such a mess. There's so many different points of views, and there's so much happening in the story that this book isn't long enough, I think, to do them justice. Nikki Drayden has a lot of really unique and interesting ideas that she's exploring in here, but I just feel like she doesn't do any of them justice because there's just too much. There's too much plot. There's no way to summarize this book in a very succinct way and give a proper vibe for what this book is about. But if you enjoy bonker science fiction, I think that this is a book worth picking up because it's not like terrible either. I don't know. I'm still very conflicted. So yeah, I feel like if you're someone who reads a lot of science fiction, this would appeal to you more. I feel like if you're someone like me who doesn't read a lot of science fiction, I don't know if this is necessarily going to appeal to you as much. But if you also want something that's very like plot driven and you don't care as much about character development, pick up this book. because this is 100% a page turner. All right, the next book that I picked up was To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I was never planning on reading this young adult book because this book has been all over BookTube since it came out, and it never really appealed to me. And then I saw the trailer for the Netflix movie that is going to be coming out, I think, later this month. I was like, all right, I'm going to read this book now because I want to read the book before the Netflix movie comes out, and I want to watch the movie because the trailer looks cute. So if you aren't aware, the basic premise of this book is you are following the 16-year-old girl named Laura Jean Song. She writes letters to the boys that she loves right at the end of when she's like sort of getting over her crush, and basically like writes these letters ending her love affair with them. But none of these boys know that, and she doesn't like do anything with them. She just like puts them in the envelope and then puts them in a hat box. And then she discovers one day that all of her letters have been sent out to all of her crushes. And it basically just goes through the consequences of that, slash her also going through her junior year of high school and trying to figure out just who she is and what she wants to be doing. Her older sister has just gone off to college. She also has a younger sister. Their mom passed away a number of years ago. So yeah, this book is cute. I liked it. It does exactly what you want a rom-com to do, and it was what I was in the mood for, so it like worked for me. This book is nothing groundbreaking by any means, but I think that's kind of okay. There is a lot of the book that feels very obvious, like how the letters all get sent out is like this big mystery. I don't know if it's a big mystery, but it's like a part of the book, and I feel like from the very beginning it's very obvious how the letters got out. There are times when Laura Jean comes across as being like super, super immature, like she's supposed to be 16, and sometimes it feels like she's 13, but I also just don't know if that's me being so detached from 16-year-olds. Maybe 16 is really like that. But yeah, it's cute. There's a love triangle, so forewarnings for that. I think I'm going to continue on. Like when I'm in the mood for something cute and light and fluffy and something easy to read, I'll probably keep going with the series. But I'm definitely going to be watching the movie. So yeah, if you like young adult rom-coms, like if you like the Stephanie Perkins books, you're gonna like this. Alright, and the final book that I have finished this month is The Last Equation of Isaac Severy by Nova Jacobs. This is such a disappointing book for me. I rated it a 2 out of 5 stars. I did not enjoy this experience. So the story starts off with this like famous mathematician named Isaac Severy passing away. His adopted granddaughter, Hannah, receives a letter from him basically saying that like there is this thing that he's been working on that he's kept a secret, and is the information you need to be able to find the work, and you need to find it and then destroy it. And so she basically starts off looking for this work and trying to figure out the clues that he's left behind in order to find it and then, follow his wishes, things like that. So that's sort of like the main plot summary that you get about this book, but there is a lot more happening here. You also follow 2 other characters in the family. You follow Hannah's biological brother, so another adopted grandson, and then you're also following like one of her uncles named Philip. I believe it's just those 3 characters that you rotate between. And so you follow this family as they're dealing with the grieving process, and then in the letter, Isaac Severy also says that like 3 other people are going to die either in this location or around this location or something along those lines. And so you're also like sort of following the mystery to see what's gonna happen with that. So yeah, I was really disappointed with this book, partially because I thought it was going to be more mystery-y than it is. Like the way that it's pitched makes it sound like that, but it's not. The mystery aspects of it aren't strong enough or aren't enough of this book to make it worthwhile, because like the other points of view have their own separate plot lines that eventually all come together in the end, but just feel so disconnected from each other for the most part. And like the other plot lines I did not find intriguing at all. Like if this book was cut into a third and we only had the main Hannah plot line that's following this mystery, I think it would have been so much stronger. I think that the reveals that happen at the end, because you have the different points of views, are not necessary. Like you could have revealed those in a completely different way and it would have been just fine. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like nothing about this book was that great. I didn't care that much about any of the characters. Even like the difficulties in Hannah's life didn't appeal to me very much. I don't know if I just had wrong expectations or what, but it did not appeal to me. Like so much of this book I spent just wondering if I should DNF it. But partially I was on the plane and partially because I was just getting through it very quickly. I think because I started skim reading parts of it, that I figured I would just at least get to the end to figure out the mystery part. So yeah, 2 out of 5 stars for me. Was not very happy with this reading experience, which is just sad. All right, so that's everything that I have finished so far this month. As a reminder, in the month of August, I'm going to be reading through The Three Musketeers, so you guys are all invited to join along with me. I will link that read along video up at the top. Literally have just started, like I'm recording this on August 1st, so don't have a lot of thoughts on that, but I will be recording a video talking about my experiences with this book later on in the month. But yeah, feel free to join me if you'd like. I also have included sort of like a pacing spreadsheet if you want to spread it out over the course of the month, but I have a feeling that this is going to be a relatively easy book to get through despite its size, because I've heard it's just very, very plot driven, and it's been a while since I've read Dumas, so yes, join me. So that's everything I have for this video. Thanks so much for dealing with my terrible plot summaries and very quick talking. If you have any comments or questions about any of the books I talked about, leave it down below, especially if you've read any of these books, and especially if you have differing opinions, because I enjoy when people provide differing opinions as long as they're polite. Otherwise, you can leave a comment telling me what your favorite read of the month was. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. It might be Bad Blood, or it might be I'm Still Here. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.